Welcome to What to Do When, a podcast from real lawyers with real perspective, where we explore a variety of legal issues and scenarios. Each week, we focus on a new topic and discuss what to do when and if any of these legal scenarios ever happen to you or a loved one. With over 40 years of combined legal experience, our hosts offer their unique perspectives and insights on a range of real-life legal situations.
Hi there. Welcome back to another podcast here at Critzer Cardani. I'm Jackie.
And I'm Scott. Jackie, what's on the docket today?
What to do when your spouse files for bankruptcy.
Are you talking still married or divorced?
Well, spouse, married.
Okay, I just want to make sure everybody understood what you're talking about, because that's crazy. You mean my spouse can file bankruptcy without me?
For sure.
No way. I don't believe it.
So there's a couple things. We're going to talk about married living together, married not living together, and not married at all.
Okay.
Married living together, life is not quite grand because somebody's filing for bankruptcy, but it's going okay. There's no separation on the horizon. Bankruptcy requires that you disclose all income, all household income, all household income. So your spouse isn't named. Your spouse doesn't have their social security number associated with your bankruptcy, but their income is disclosed as part of the bankruptcy. That has to be. There's a couple different financial tests that have to be done. Yep. Really, no matter what chapter of bankruptcy you file, 7 or 13 from the consumer world, those numbers are going to be included. You can't fudge it. You can't get around it. And also, you have to report the number of what we say heads on bed, so people in the house. Okay. Your spouse, non-filing spouse, is in no way impacted by your bankruptcy directly. Indirectly, there's some things you might notice. For example, if we're married, we own a home together.
Yep.
And both on the deed, both on the lien, and it's ABC Bank. Well, if I file for bankruptcy, this is the second time I've filed. I don't like this scenario. But if I file for bankruptcy, but Scott doesn't file for bankruptcy, we're married, we own property together, it's really not that big of a deal, except that on the mortgage, like in their computer system, it's going to say mortgage loan included in bankruptcy somewhere. So it's going to say something like that, but not necessarily directly impact Scott.
So it's not going to ding my credit?
Not going to ding your credit at all.
Okay.
Okay, same thing with credit cards, same thing. Actually, that's an important distinction. If we have some credit cards together, those are likely going to be shut down. Yep. Not every time, but almost every time. If we are, especially if I am the owner of the card and you're just a signer, gone. Credit card's gone. If we are both owners of the account, that's a little tougher, but I think most of the time they err on the side of caution. They're going to close those accounts. So you want to be aware of that as well. But if you're not jointly filing, your credit will never show that you were involved in a bankruptcy. Whew. What if you're married and not living together? Well, all of the before is still true as far as credit worthiness and dinging your credit and all that. But if you're in separate households, now you don't have to report spouse income.
Okay.
Now it's just your household income. That's all the court really needs to know about and really wants reported.
So that makes it a little easier for you to file if you're separated, probably, correct?
Correct.
Especially if you and I both make $20,000 a piece, that's $40,000. If it's one, it's $40,000. They don't even consider the $20,000. Right.
Okay. Now, if we're living together, not married, it's certainly not going to have any impact on your credit as far as the bankruptcy is concerned. But the same rules apply to co-owned property and co-owned debt. So you're still going to see those accounts going in. They're going to be notated somewhere that one of the co-owners filed for bankruptcy. So it's not that you aren't completely not impacted. I mean, the accounts are noted, but nothing goes on to your credit report as a result of a spouse or
Well, let me ask a question then. So we own a house together. We have a mortgage together. Okay. You file bankruptcy again. And the note we'd always pay together, you come to me and say, I'm not going to pay my half. I filed bankruptcy. I still have to pay it, right? You're out of that obligation to pay that mortgage, correct? Or maybe a credit card.
That depends. Maybe a credit card. And it really sort of depends on what we're doing. But the obligation to pay on something I want to keep really does continue.
Okay.
So if I want to keep the house, we want to keep the house fine. But that's a great question, because what about if we're separated
Yeah.
and you're in the house and I file for bankruptcy because I'm not paying for a house I'm not in and I have other debt that I can't pay, right? That's not the only reason. I can't be forced to pay it.
That's what I thought. So that's really important to know, folks. And these things get really tricky. You had one other category of not married.
The not married, it would just go back to the same thing. If co-owned property or co-owned debt, you're going to see some dings there. But if we own property together, but we don't.
All right, let's
Well,
do
we
what
aren't
everybody's
married.
doing today. The modern style, which I don't agree with, but is we're going to live together.
Yep.
We're going to purchase a house together, get on the mortgage together.
Well, that's a step in the very right direction. But yes,
Yes. And so what happens if you file for bankruptcy?
you're still obligated and I'm not.
Will they count my income on your bankruptcy? Okay.
No. Roommate income, not necessarily, not like a spouse income.
Yeah, exactly.
Spouse income is different, but your roommate income, okay, or boyfriend, girlfriend, partner income, there is a place to notate where you're getting help with some of the bills. But it's important when you're filing bankruptcy to go to an attorney who knows what they're doing when it comes to bankruptcy. Because if you file your schedules and you say, here are the household bills and I'm paying all of them, when you're not, you're only paying for half of all of them, you're gonna likely get some questions about that and have to correct some schedules and jump through some hoops that ordinarily might not have to. So just be wise about how you list your debts, how you list your income, and make sure you're reporting what you're actually paying for in the household. But we handle bankruptcy here and I'm happy to answer questions for you as well.
Yeah, this is really important, and I want to bring this up because we'll finish on this, but I just think it's an important caveat. It's really not a caveat, but think about this. Sometimes money situations are one of the biggest causes of divorce.
Sure.
And a lot of times people think that if Jackie files bankruptcy, it's going to ruin me. And it creates an unnecessary tension. And that's what we're trying to unravel here and say, sometimes it may be the best thing in the world for Jackie to go ahead and file in our family situation. Say she got a little crazy with the credit cards and went overwhelmed and, just didn't realize.
Maybe I co-signed
Maybe she co-signed. Remember that one,
on
Bo?
somebody's $100,000
$100,000
truck
and
and they defaulted to.
Yeah, exactly. So there's some situations that, to save the marriage might be worth it. And sometimes
Sure.
we have these beliefs that aren't true.
Preconceived ideas
Yeah.
that are just based in.
And so all of a sudden you're allowing this festering thing to happen when there is a way out. So my point is, when you're in these situations and you're struggling with issues, come talk to us. We're experienced divorce lawyers. Jackie's a very experienced bankruptcy attorney, very good at what she does. A lot of times there's a solution that doesn't have to end with, I hate you.
Correct.
And, that's a really good thing if we can get a solution that doesn't have to end up with, I hate you and never want to see you again.
Well, and rebuilding after bankruptcy is not the impossibility that a lot of people think that it is. It is definitely possible, and it's possible in a relatively short amount of time. This isn't a 10-year horizon of rebuilding. This is a much shorter time, and there are lots of tools and avenues to rebuild your life after bankruptcy because sometimes it's just one of the necessary things people go through. That's why it's available to us. So we can also help you with the rebuilding process.
All right. Remember, like and subscribe.
See you next time.
Thank you.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of What to Do When. For more episodes, be sure to subscribe to our podcast, and we encourage you to check our archives to listen to previous topics. Tune in next week for a new episode and some fresh perspective from Critzer Cardani.